Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and today's episode I have Astrid. She is a spiritual business strategist. So today we're going to talk all about the witch wound. So Astrid, how did you first become aware of this concept? Like, what inspired you to kind of dive into what impact it had for business, like self-work and shadow work?
I remember it very clearly, which is odd because I don't have a super clear memory of like those moments of clarity. This one was so clear. It was a Saturday afternoon. My husband and I were sitting on the couch watching a movie, and I just heard in my mind, like, witch wound, explore the witch wound. Or I don't know. Yeah, it was like explore yeah. And so I was like, Wait, what?" And so I went into my room and I grabbed a bunch of post-it notes and I started just writing and writing and writing. And I posted everything on my wall and I was like, this is what I do already. Like, this is just kind of spirit giving me the title for it, and like telling me what it is in like an overarching sense. And like I just mentioned, everything that I do is like always related back to business because I guess it's just how my brain works. How we create freedom in our life and impact. And so yeah, those two kind of just wove together. And um I realized that I've been realizing a lot of the gaps in the market where I guess spiritual people need to be served better. That it's not, you don't need all strategy, you don't need all ease and flow, you need like this rhythm. And this seems to like just perfectly explain all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was gonna say it's funny when you said that you like heard it in your mind like before we got on to record.
Mhm.
Um, that's literally what happened to me too. It's like I've gone through it maybe like I thought I did, and then it's just like I've already done that, and it's like oh no, like that is I keep asking like what my block is, show me my block, and it's like your wound, like my
Yeah.
witch wound. I'm like, that's interesting. So people that are listening maybe are not familiar with like a witch wound, can you kind of explain like what that is in context of like maybe like a personal experience or how if somebody's blocked in business, like maybe potentially like some signs that it could be the witch wound?
Yeah, so for a long time I got to this place where I was doing so much healing work in on myself, mindset work, all kinds of stuff. Um and just one day I got to this point where I was like, dude, if I don't stop healing, I will never be healed. I will never allow myself to have the healed experience of myself. And I kind of was just like, okay, like, when do I get to decide to stop healing and be healed? And same thing as you, like a new level would come in and it would, require another upgrade, right? Because it's really identity and upgrading your identity to be the woman who just does and is
Right.
now, right? So the witch wound is a collective scarring, right? And um it is like in our cosmic DNA. It's there, baby. Like it is there. And it is the thing that makes us diminish our value. It makes us, not want to speak out because we're afraid of rejection. We crave approval, we crave validation. And it doesn't matter like what scenario it is. Oh, this is why I was telling you about the healing thing, is that I got to a point where I realized that like, oh, there's only one core wound. it's not all of these different things. There's one
Right.
core wound, and
Yeah.
that is the moment that we are separated from divinity. And every wound goes back to that. And so whenever I started doing like the witch wound healing work on myself and with other people, it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, the witch wound separated women from their divinity. So that would be like even more core, right? Like
Right.
as it sort of tumbles down the energetic spectrum into the physical manifestation, it'd be like, okay, well, there's like a tangible happening that we can sort of pinpoint. And even if like this could be past life memories in our DNA, this can be also generational, because we have plenty of evidence to suggest that we carry our ancestors' trauma, and it's alive inside of us, just like having blue eyes or whatever. um so, and even if it's past life stuff, or even if your ancestors didn't actually, oh, the witch wound is from the burning times
Yeah.
when women were persecuted for knowing their power and for being healers and intuitives and oracles and just having that connection with the divine. And what happens whenever, people feel threatened by power is they want to exterminate it. So even if your ancestors or you in a past life didn't directly, burn at the stake or be drowned or beat to death or raped or whatever, there's this betrayal that comes with it too. There's this humiliation, there is this persecution, and on top of it, what we all know, the fear of death that stops us from speaking up. It can all really be connected to that. And so if you're a woman, you had to watch that shit go down, right? You
Right.
had to betray your sisters to save your children's lives. It was dark.
Right.
And so yeah, it shows up in so many ways, and it doesn't really matter how you were affected. If you're a woman, I say you don't have to be a witch to do this work or to
Right.
um be affected by the witch wound. If you have a pulse, you have a witch wound, period.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah. I
long
love
answer.
that. Yeah, I was gonna say I love that you say that too, because I think I was talking to a client. It had to have been last week, and I just said witch wound, and she didn't identify as a witch, which I was like, okay, let me take this back. So, like you just said, it's not all about classifying as a witch. Like I wasn't calling her a witch, Like I know that sometimes in society can be, or like conditioning could be like bad. I mean, it's not, but I mean, like that's just what people want you to believe.
Mhm,
And I just says, well, it's just like, a wound from, just say your past or, like ancestors.
mhm,
And it's interesting that when I heard you say about like the core wound, so we were just talking about human design too, like before we got on. And I found something in human design which is really interesting. I don't know if you know um, much about the like generational trauma, but it's actually you can find it from your human design. So it's like
I didn't know
everybody
that.
has, yeah. Like I thought that was interesting because most people, obviously, you have that one wound, but I feel like too with generational, like people say I want to heal generational trauma, but I don't know like where it is, and it's like I don't know. One day I was looking at somebody's chart and I was like, oh, it's right here. And it's like crazy to think that it's in your Mars design line. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because like Mars is all about like that fiery power and all that stuff. So like that's where it sits. So most people like mine's rejection. Every single thing that I've ever done in my life was to reject myself, or it was reflected back that I was like rejecting parts of myself. So it's like healing that or having the awareness to heal that. I feel like that was really, really powerful
That's
for a lot
huge.
of people and for me too. So I just thought that was interesting that you said, like the one core wound was like that disconnection from the divine. Because ultimately, yes, I do also agree with that.
Yeah.
So um when you say
Let me
um
just stop for a second and just like kudos to you finding that in the Mars line, because we look in the Mars line for other things, but I never thought like, oh, that will be your generational trauma. Thank you. That is just brilliant, by the
yes,
way.
yeah. Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I think it was something, I don't know, something told me to go look. And most of the time that I read human design, I read it intuitively. So it's like a download was like, look here. And I was like, that's interesting. So
Right.
of course I like looked online. I was like, what does this mean? Like, what is that? And then like some app had told me, oh, it's in your Mars line. I was like, oh, and I didn't connect it until like weeks later. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like I kept looking at this thinking, well, yeah, I know that about the Mars line, but then it's like, I didn't know that. So yeah, anybody that's listening, then I was like, oh, I need to tell everybody. So then I did like all 6 lines of the Mars line for my YouTube channel and how to heal them. Cause I'm like, this is really powerful, especially when there's a lot of people. I often want to say like, it's like a trend to do shadow work now. So it's like, well, here, if you want to heal some generational trauma, here you go.
I gotta say, I'm convinced that like I started the shadow work trend on TikTok. I'm convinced. So I'll just say
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So everybody go follow her on TikTok. Um, I have to say I was very resistant to buy that shadow work journal, that
that.
the viral shadow work journal, but I did. I bought it and I bought it for my boyfriend too, and
Like
I
it?
loved it. Like I got through it in a couple days. He's still trying to get through it. So
Nice. My aunt bought it too. I haven't bought it, but she bought it.
you would probably really like it. It's like it's good for like somebody that doesn't, if somebody can't afford a mentor. I feel like there's a really good, I always believe that everybody should have a mentor, but if you can't afford it for whatever reason, those books on TikTok are like really good.
So cool.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some context in your business. So like how do you see the witch wound manifesting? And I know this might be like a really, you know, broad, like question, but affecting individuals, or like what strategies have you found most effective in addressing these challenges?
Mm. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's broad, but it's also like we are so not fucking special in our limitation. You know what I mean? Like we are
Yeah,
just so not unique. And I learn a lot more about people when they tell me what they believe to be true or what they think they need to do. And I
yeah,
see where they're hung up a lot more there than I do if a person tells me like, oh, I'm just, I'm afraid to show up. And I think it's because, whenever I was 5, I was singing on the coffee table and my mom and dad told me to get down from there and shut up. And, like, yeah, I mean, you learn a lot about a person's wounding from there, but it's also like, okay, how long do we want to sit in the wound? Like, how long
right,
do we want to be there? Because action is the alchemy, right? And
right,
shame is the thing that makes shadow persist. And so when we sit there and we let all of this stuff stew inside of us, it poisons us, right? And so my main strategies for dealing with this are action based, but they're also, it's like super aligned actions, obviously.
right.
And it's the exact action that needs to be taken per person in the moment that it needs to be taken that breaks the whole thing down and it liberates you from it, right? So
Yeah,
I see a lot of, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, right? I see a lot of brilliant people too. Okay. These are like empowered, aspirational people that like got it like that, And
yeah,
like I don't know what to say here or um I'm afraid that I'm going to have haters, all of those, the common things, right? And that's
yeah,
another reason why you don't have to be a witch to like do this. It's literally prevalent in every woman, and not even to mention, our hormones cycle every 28 days, whereas marketing was like designed for people whose hormones cycle every 24 hours, and that might not seem super connected at first, but it totally is, because our experience is a journey. It's not just like one action's going to change the game. One strategy is going to change the game. It is literally how are you showing up? Who are you being moment to moment in your day? And
hmm
is that who you want to be? And
yeah,
I know that there's a lot of like responses, emotional dysregulation, executive dysfunction, ADHD, like me with time. I don't fucking understand it. What is time? I don't get it.
yeah,
But we also we also still get to have power over that. Like, you know,
right,
it's just a matter of um not making a resolution to it, not committing to it, not trying to will your way there, but like deeply dedicating yourself to being your most brilliant expression and living a fully turned on life.
Right. Yeah. And I'm with you too when you say about not understanding time, me either. And
Yeah.
it's like I watch myself on video sometimes and I'm like, God, Lauren, you don't ever sit still. I try to sit still, but it's like I can't. I have to move my hands. I have to like do something.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, maybe I should sit on the floor when I do these recordings.
Shaking, like in there. Woo.
Yeah. So, that's awesome. I thank you for explaining all of that because I feel like I know a lot of my audience too has been really intrigued with like the witch wound and like strategy and a lot of people that I'm connected with too. Um, they are, you know, business oriented or they have businesses. So I think that all this like this conversation is going to be amazing that they're going to I think learn at least try to have self-awareness of like where are they not showing up, where are they not doing something, where like you know so they can kind of um like figure it out for themselves or come work with you.
Totally. I think there will be some big breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Because I believe too that our tone carries upgrades, you know, our
Yes.
voice, it creates activations as well. So like you and I could say the exact same thing word for word on a live stream in the same group, and different people will show up for it. Or if the same
Yes.
person shows up for both, they will hear something totally different, just like they'll hear something different the second time they listen to it, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I wanted you to talk a little bit about shadow work. So, when people hear shadow work, I think that they hear, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to do that," or "That's scary." Is there a way that you kind of teach it, or talk about it in a way that it feels safer to people than to be like, "Oh my gosh, I got to do shadow work"?
Well, no, because I'm I'm like if you're being called to the dark, submit yourself to it because there are gifts there that the light could never ever give you, like ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as like the fear goes and feeling safe, I think that we think we want safety, but look at where safety has gotten us,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like people, like we legitimately as a society sell uh our own freedom for a false sense of safety and security, right?
Right.
Nobody's happy, nobody's, I mean, what used to be $7 an hour now is $18 an hour, right? Like you have to have that
Right.
level of upgrade, and we're just not seeing it, right? And
Right.
so it's really important that you source your own safety, that no matter what happens, I will never abandon myself. I am not a person who betrays themselves anymore, right?
Right.
Like my desires are not up for negotiation, and I am the source of my power. And that is where like the whole thing starts and where it needs to start, because there's nothing that you should have to feel afraid of, other than that's your conditioning going like, oh, be afraid of this, death, 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 betrayal, humiliation,
Yeah.
like that's literally all it is. And it's like, wait a second, I'm the power, I have the power, not this external. And especially if you truly believe that everything starts as energy first, it
Right.
makes its way down into physical manifestation. So why would we look at what's going on over here and go, oh, that's who I am, other than our conditioning?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it has to start here. It's like, okay, can I sit with myself and literally create the feelings and the state of being of totally safe in my body, right?
Right.
That's, I think, the only way you can make it safe for yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have the same kind of belief, but a lot of people, I feel like the spiritual community has this false sense of whatever it is for shadow work of like, oh, you have to like, what the belief that I have is like we don't get rid of our shadow. It's like some people are like, oh, you have to get rid of it, you have to do this, you have, it's like, no, you have to transform it, because it's like you can't get rid of energy, like you can't destroy it, you just have to transcend it. Like you're, the energy in your body is the energy in your body, like you don't get more of it and you don't get less of it. It's
Yeah,
like you can't get rid of it. Yeah.
it's the new overcoming your ego or getting rid of your ego,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And
And
it's like you need your ego. And I mean, I'm coming from somebody that like a couple of years ago did not want to be human, did not like my ego. Like I just, wanted to go back home.
yeah,
you
that's
know.
where it starts.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. Like, okay, so I have to be human, that's for one. Obviously I need to have my ego, or I'm gonna like, people are just gonna like trample all over me, like, because that's just what people do when they can see like a way to kind of, get use you, I should say, so yeah, I truly believe that, like shadow work is important, because some people are like, oh, I just want to get through this thing and then
Mm.
like I'll feel better. And I'm like, no, you won't, because the next thing is going to happen, and you got to find where the joy is in the situation of like how is this is happening for you and not, like not to you.
Exactly, exactly. Where
Yeah.
is the opportunity to thrive? Because that's what
Right.
it is, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think that a lot of like the mainstream stuff that we are fed is just half truths, you know?
Yes.
And so people are not even starting from a proper orientation in the first place,
Right.
right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of deconditioning, but there's also a lot of misunderstanding, right? Like for instance, one of the things that I like to show people is that that scale where it says like the different emotions, like
Yeah.
shame, guilt, fear, anger,
Yeah.
desire, all the way up to like love, passion, joy, right? Something like not
Yeah.
passion, love and joy at the top. So I like to show that, so many people think that like these lower states of being are bad or wrong. And in reality, when you do that and when you're trying to get rid of that stuff, which is included for shadow work, because shadow work is literally just exposing parts of yourself that you've rejected and like claiming them, claiming ownership in them, and finding the magic in that so that you can actually be a badass fucking human being, right? Like a
Right.
creatrix. But
Yeah.
if you're like sitting in those and you're going, oh, that's bad, I need to overcome that, da 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 da, then you're staying in that lower level because you're shaming yourself, you're guilting yourself. That is what the
Right.
shadow makes you do, because you want to keep all that stuff in the closet. But to actually transmute it, you get to learn to love those things, like love those carnal desires, love that you feel embarrassed when you say something that nobody gets or whatever, like when you take
Yeah.
this like joy or love that's at the top and you're putting it on these lower states of being, you are literally in love now.
Yeah.
You're no longer in
Yes.
shame. And
Yes.
so that's the ideal place to even like manifest from or anything. It's like
Yeah.
you can feel like shit and still manifest 20K months, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you're saying that manifest, because like when we're recording this, it's on 111, and it's like the most powerful manifest when I'm like, I wonder if she scheduled it to be like that. And when I said that it was 11:11 and on the East Coast at 1:11,
Oh
that makes
yeah, it's 10:13 now here. But
sense.
oh, and it's on January 11th. Oh, okay, I see. Dang.
Yes.
That's awesome.
When you were like, you can still feel like shit and manifest. I'm like, and you said that at 111 or
Yeah,
11:11 on 111. That's amazing.
that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I love talking about the like that too when you about transcendent, because when I was literally just talking to my boyfriend about consciousness, because we're all in the same consciousness, right? Like it's just Christ consciousness too, and that's the whole thing of like, and I know I literally said I wasn't going to talk about religion, but I feel like now people like Christ consciousness is consciousness. It's not like he's going to come down to earth and save everybody, right? It's like, no, it's a consciousness level. And when it really triggers me, and I don't want to say much, but a lot of people, when they say, oh, like Jesus saves me, God's going to save me, it's like, no, you have Christ consciousness in yourself. It's like, it's called your pineal gland. You have it all there, right? It's like, when people say that to me, I'm like, but then again, I grew up Catholic, and it was like a very toxic, Catholic, religion. So it's like, now that I have the understanding or the awareness of like, that's not true. And it's like, sometimes when people say, oh, that's my truth, I'm just like, well, there's only one truth, and that's
Mhm.
just your opinion. And it's like, when I understood that too, it was like, wow, so like nothing really matters because there's only one truth. It's not like my truth is my truth. No, like there's only one real truth, right? So
And we all just have like this totally subjective perspective of what even
yeah.
reality is. Everybody thinks they're right.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nobody's walking around going like, I'm wrong and I'm gonna go tell Lauren like, that I'm right today and I'm gonna trick her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that's another argument that I had with my boyfriend the other day, because he's like, that's my truth. And I was like, your truth is an opinion. There's only one truth. And he kind of just looked at me and he's like, you're right. Because I don't need to be right. I could be completely wrong, but that's just what I believe, right? So it's like once you I seen a quote the other day that says, if you get offended by somebody, they own you, like, because you're allowing them to. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful, because I don't necessarily ever really get offended by people, but I know I have, like when I was if I'm in a shadow, or if it's like before, I get so offended, or I take my life so personal, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't understand why I care so much. But it's like, when you look at it from that perspective, it's just like, oh no, I am not going to get offended, because nobody is going to own me. Like, I own myself.
And like in those moments too, like when you feel triggered like that or offended by people, it's like that's the perfect time to do shadow work. And you don't have to sit there with
Yes.
a journal or anything. You just go like, oh, okay, I am rejecting this aspect of myself right now and I'm projecting it onto them. Okay, great.
Right.
So they're actually doing me a favor by showing me how I can be more whole, you know? And a lot of people will look at that and they'll go like, okay, so if I'm triggered by a person being selfish, you're telling me that like I need to be selfish, or something like that, or narcissistic or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not so black and white, right? It's not
Yeah.
so obvious. It's like a person who is behaving in that way is getting gifts that you will not allow yourself to have because you vowed to never be that way. And
Right.
so, if a person is experiencing a sense of self satisfaction and confidence because they can stand for themselves, and you're a people pleaser, then yeah, you have a lesson to learn from that person, and to see, okay, well, they get this and this out of it and I'm rejecting those aspects, so how can I actually give this to myself now, right? And literally, like, your whole entire life, shadow work does not have to be something that you do. It's a living experiment, just like human design is an experiment, right?
Right.
Shadow work is not, yeah, it's, if it's happening, deal with it. Like,
Right.
alchemize it.
Yeah. Yes. I love that you said that, because I was changing some of my healing sessions, like just like what I called them, because it's like, I don't really want to call them like healing, like just healing sessions. I want to call them more, because I feel like I do a lot of shadow work, or I do a lot of past life regression stuff, or I do a lot of like Akashic records, or I do a lot of things. So it's
Yeah.
like, I never really knew, like, I didn't want to call them just healing or like theta or whatever. It's like, you know, I feel like even though, or if it's like shamanic stuff, like what is it like? Because I personally am now going down the shamanic journey, because I feel like some of my shadows have gotten, like I've gotten stuck in them, that I'm like, I feel like I need something more. And I feel like I've always resonated with the shamanic path. It was very resistant to me, because I know how much work I'm going to have to do. But then I'm like, how alleviating can it be once I do that? Right. So it's like, even for myself, I feel like it's a deeper level of like what I can provide to people. So
Mhm.
obviously I have to go through it myself. I can't just be like, yeah, I'll teach you it, but I haven't gone through it.
Yeah,
it's like I have to go through it too.
that's
And
part of
I
it.
personally like that the most. I like going through it myself and then teaching it like while I'm going through it because it keeps me like humble and in that place of like I'm here with you. I understand. Like I'm going through it too. Like I feel like
Of
that's just the type of, leader I want to be.
course.
So, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, spread the
There was
kindness.
something else I wanted to ask you. It was about self-worth. So something came up in my mind, popped up in my mind to ask you to speak about it because I feel like a lot of people are going through, me included, um self-worth, like something transcending self-worth to like if you have a business. So when I first started out with my business, I felt like I couldn't charge. I know this is what was a witch wound or a money wound that I had. I couldn't charge my worth because it's like I didn't know enough. Knowing now what I know now, I do know things. A lot of it's channeled, but a lot of it's like not coming from my mind. How would you address somebody that like is just starting a business or is like hasn't really like started, like says they have a business, but they're like kind of like they're like a hamster on a wheel, like because of their self-worth. Could be self-worth issues.
So I'm really happy that you asked this because I have a whole whole thing about this. And actually the first workbook that I had out that you maybe even saw, that one is called Fuck Your Worthiness. And maybe not, but it
I don't
is
think so, but I'll
I
have to go
have
check that out. Yeah.
I have a whole like different paradigm of viewing worthiness. And one of my favorite sort of pieces of content to make over and over is like, stop charging your worth. Because when you charge your worth, you are getting that is tied up in everything you do. So when a person tells you, no, I don't want that, you
Right.
say, you take that as an attack on yourself because your worth is all tied up in your pricing and your work, right? And
Right.
so you can't help but to go, oh, I suck, right? And
Right.
so that's one of the things like in the industry that I would like to change is like, stop charging your worth. You get to charge based on the value of the transformation that you deliver. And if you cannot see the value of the transformation you deliver, you're not ready to sell it. Period. And I don't
Right.
care because people will say, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that." It's like, if you don't trust yourself to deliver a transformation, then you got to look at what is your transformation. Like, stop doing this to yourself and get the support you need, right?
Right.
And so many people are out here white knuckling it, trying to figure it out for themselves and stuff. And I get it because there are so many other coaches who are out here just teaching because somebody told them that they could and that they should charge $7,000 for it because that's how you make a profit. And it's like, yeah, but this person's over here going, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Holy shit, another person just paid me $7,000 and I have no idea what I'm going to do with them, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's bullshit. That is
Yeah.
absolute bullshit. And everybody has like their own unique brand of magic that
Yeah.
will reveal itself to you like when you know what you're looking for. And once you start to really like channel and uncover, well, one, your genius, but building out, crafting your unique body of work so that you can stand there confidently going, yeah, it's 7K, right? Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and know for a fact that this is the journey that we get to go on to experience this result. And that's a big problem too, is that people don't know what results they deliver and they don't know who they're talking to. And
Right.
so those things are all tied up in it as well. So like, you have a reason to not feel worthy. Like,
Right.
it's not to say it's not to say that you're not worthy,
Right.
because like inherently, like, fuck your worthiness, who cares about that? Right? Like it's a societal like concept that we made up, and it differs between cultures and societies, and
Yeah.
different things make you more or less worthy. And it's like, what about your radical self-belief? How can we build that up, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that worthiness is showing you, hey, I don't feel ready. And that's a good thing, because then you can identify, like, oh, I need to get more confident in what I actually do, right? I need to
Right.
pinpoint and understand my movement and the transformation that I'm here to catalyze and be able
Right.
to explain that and to be able to share that with the world in a way that feels really lit up and turned on for both me and my ideal clients, and to
Right.
see my audience as this sort of, these are my future clients, and I am preparing them to be the best client when they step into my container, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
just allowing this whole thing to take shape. It starts not just with like your worth, because your worth and your business can be two very separate things. Like
Right.
they can, and your money and your worth can be two very separate things. I'm second house, Venus, Taurus, all of it's right there. So worth is and money is tied up to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um and yeah, like or is it third house? Yeah, I think it's actually my third house. But anyways, it's all tied up there for me. And like different people have different things that are, how their entire structure, inner coding is wired.
Right.
Yeah, I think, that's what I think. And
Yeah.
what I know and what I have experience with seeing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. I was going to say, you said something about zone of genius, or were you talking about human design, or you were just saying like were you talking about the zone of genius in human design?
So I define genius as the spirit that animates your art.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's literally what it pretty much is in human design too. But when you said zone of genius, I was like, how does she know that? Like, do you use human design in your containers or?
minimally, and I
Okay.
just started to, and I am
Okay.
not like I'm not a professional human. I do not do readings, but what
Okay.
I found is, so I used to do what's called a genius blueprint reading, where I'll go in and I'll look at like what your genius actually is, how it wants to express in the world,
Yeah.
and then be able to share with you just all of the ways that that is, so that you can actually have the strategy to back that. But
Yeah.
then I started playing around with like looking at different aspects of astrology and seeing like, oh, okay, that's how I do that, and this is how this goes together. And I started like putting it against other clients, charts and things.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it with human design. And so what I did was, I have, a specific way of interpreting these aspects of genius.
Yeah.
And I help people just like be able to not have to become a professional, human design expert or astrologer. And yeah, still go
Right.
get your readings, still do that. But
Yeah.
here's where you need to look for your confidence, for your
Right.
understanding,
Yeah.
and then helping them like interpret it in like a business context. So I use it minimally, but
Yeah, that's good. I was going to say, because it would be really, if you don't, it would be really good for you to use it. That's kind of what, so my hold up to, I love human design, very obsessed with it, but I am really passionate about teaching people how to understand human design without spending thousands of dollars going to all these people, taking all these courses. And I know that it's people's businesses, but I feel like the human design community is not very friendly when it comes to helping people. And I feel like human design, I know that Raw and Karen Curry Parker have created this community, or like if it's quantum human design or if it's just regular human design, they didn't create that community that way. It's
Mhm.
like these, especially Karen Curry Parker with, quantum human design, like I've worked with her before. So it's like I know, and I've stated this in many of her like lessons, or like many of her like, that I just feel like I don't like the way, and she agrees, like she didn't create it that way. And she's like, she's still doing free readings, and she's still doing like, why would you charge somebody for a free human design chart when they can go get it on a free site? Like, it's like, why would you do that? Like, that's not, and for me, that's not integrity. I'll do free, like my free 30-minute call, but I'm not teaching people human design. I'm teaching them about their chart, where to look for this. It's like, I don't want them to have to come back to me and like ask me. I want them to be able to kind of like use something tangibly to their chart and know what to do. It's like, I don't want them to keep relying on me. I mean, it's great. I could help them, but it's like, and because somebody had asked, well, what makes you so different than everybody else in human design? I was like, well, here is what I'm very confidently, when people say that. And it's like, literally what you did on, like, you have to watch the, video, but that's literally how I act when I'm like, oh, okay. So here is exactly what makes me different. But time to get here. I didn't, when somebody asked me, I was like, what do you mean? Like, because I'm me? Like, it's like, I'm different, but it's like, I know that I'm different because the value that I put behind teaching human design, and I can tangibly give you something to walk away with, that it's like, you don't have to pay me thousands of dollars. Sure. If you want to work with me one-on-one, sure. Then that's my bigger high ticket program.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's like, that's not how I, connect with most people. Most people do my, group coaching, or they do my like lower end courses because, that's more valuable to them. So it's like, I kind of help them decide where they should go.
that's
So I love
dope.
that you said
That's
that, because
amazing.
yeah, because I like, some people just need to know their niche in their business. They need to know where their zone of genius is, what you said, or their life purpose.
Mhm.
Well, ultimately our life purpose is us, like what we need to do. But other than that, I'm not going to charge people thousands of dollars just to learn that and learn things. Because I guess it's because I've been through so many different programs that I paid so much money and got no value out, that I was like, that one thing I'm going to do when I become like a guide or a leader is, I'm not charging people thousands of dollars just for crap, like a recording. Like, oh, here, you want to buy my recording? You got to pay me this. Like, really? Here's the recording. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
I love you. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant by you're preparing your audience to
Yeah.
be ready for your transformation. You're like, these are your future clients, man. Like,
Right.
get them ready to transform so that way, whenever
Yeah.
they step into your work, they're ready to go. Right?
Right.
I love
Yeah.
that for you
Yeah.
so
Yes.
much.
Yes. So is there a program that you're running right now that people can jump on board, or is there a group that you have, that if people wanted to connect with you, I'll make sure that is also in the description box too. But
Okay. I have a journey that people can go on. So I have a couple of low ticket memberships, $7 membership, $47 membership, to help people prepare to be their most fucking epic self.
yeah,
Um, so the healing or transcending the witch wound in business is like the first level, $7 membership that comes with like that workbook and everything, or you can just get the workbook. Then if you want more support and like do have access to chat in Slack, which literally should cost $1,000 a month at least for what we do in that program, but is only 47 because I'm the same and I'm like, fuck that. Like I've been
yeah,
in so many programs where I'm like,
yeah.
really, this is what you're selling for
Yeah, yeah,
20,000? You could have made this into a YouTube video, Like um, fucking
yeah,
for real. Let's be
yeah,
for real. So then, yeah, being able to be in like that membership area and get to do some, work together, inner work. So both of those are really focused on the inner world. And then, Icon Accelerator is the name of my main group program, which is all about developing your unique brand of magic, a magnetic brand that attracts
yeah,
the perfect for you clients and feels really fucking good to be in,
yeah.
and the exact strategies for the person, right? It's a very unique and individual process for everybody. It's not like, here's a box, fit into it, bitch. Like, no,
Right.
that's not what we're
Yeah.
about. We're here, and you can feel too, and you're a part of this evolution and this paradigm shift into collaboration and into like this new way of doing things. So that's very much about like my programs used to be 7K, and now I've like tried to bring things down and be like, dude, not everybody needs high ticket coaching. If
Right.
you want it,
Right.
there is that too. If you're
Right.
ready for it, if I know you can come into my world and get a transformation, yes,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, it's a whole journey. I'll give you all the links for it, but Yeah, there's a place for everyone.
Yes. Yeah, there really is. And I love that you said that like there is a high ticket because a lot of times people are like, my budget is $1,000 or my budget's 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And I'm like, but here's the thing. So like, sure, that's great that you have the money, but it's like, I don't think that you need that. It's like, here's the thing. I always tell people, and even like my own clients or the people that I talk to or like mentor or whatever, I'm like, you get to decide if you want to. Here's the thing. If they're with you for 12 weeks, you have to want to be with them for 12 weeks. So it's like, if you don't, send them to somebody else that like refer them. A couple people, I just changed my prices for 2024 and people are not really happy about it. And it's just like, here, I love you and I appreciate you. But I feel like this person will be better for you. And it's like, that's not easy for me to do. I don't think like it's not easy for me to turn people away, but it's just like, I can't provide you any more value. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's just the integrity that I stand behind.
Yeah,
And
you have to have that too.
yeah,
Like you have to be able to give people a higher level experience and a high ticket experience because
yeah,
legitimately that is where you break your money shit. Like you
yeah.
stop worrying about money when you are like freely invest in what you desire to invest in. And
Right.
that comes with fear first. And we've all faced our fears. So like you're either gonna
Yeah,
face the fear or you're not. And like
right,
it might take 5 years and that's okay too, right? It's like
right.
everybody has their own journey to go on. But yeah, that doesn't mean that just because most people aren't ready for that, that we can't
Right.
also provide for the people who are looking for that. For some people, $2,000 is too low of an investment, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we have to keep all of those things in mind as well. And also I meant to tell you too, I just created a new masterclass called Icon Era, and it's like stepping into your icon era. So if anybody's kind of like, well, I don't know, I want to learn more or see more,
Yeah.
it's fucking 3 hours long. I'm sorry. It's so long, but it's two parts, okay? It's two
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I forgot
Well,
about that. So there's
I
an
was going to say,
extra
yeah, we'll make sure that that's also in the link too, so people can get that.
well.
Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know before we kind of wrap up?
Um, I
Any
know,
like
just like
final words, any words of encouragement?
stay curious. Like if you're not
Oh,
curious now, get fucking curious. Get curious. Remember that like all of the power lives in you and ask questions. Like the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life experience. And so you better get real good at asking questions. Good questions, right?
yeah.
Why
Yeah.
why do I need to see this? Like, oh, how is this person reflecting back a belief that I have about myself, right? Like just asking questions all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So,
I'm very good at that. Thank
and
you
vet
so
your
much.
options too, by the way. That was the other thing that I would like to tell the world. Lauren is amazing.
Oh, you are just as awesome and amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave a review and then share this with somebody that you would feel that would gain value from listening. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you resonate with this conversation and found it insightful, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. Stay connected with us on social media and let's continue this conversation. Let's manifest greatness in our lives. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.